born in Delhi, and my father's family migrated from Lahore during the partition years and came down and settled in Delhi. Um, However, my father was largely posted in a small town in UP, Bareilly. That's where I got my education, earlier school mostly. And because my mom was a school teacher, so I think I started going to school when I was 2.5 years old or something, like barely 2+ with her. And so I've always been the youngest in my class, used to be. Then when I was about 14, I left home for college, and the decision about what career line I would pursue and where I would go was essentially, I think, taken by my parents. I don't think I could make up my mind at that time. Always good in studies. I was in first or second, mostly second, because I found that it was more comfortable not to be first. There was too much that little, making that shift required too much effort. I think I was not up to it. So in college, it was a nice time. Went to college at GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology at Pantnagar. It was close to our home at that time, and some neighbors had gone and had a great reputation. So my parents thought that's where I should go. So like I said, 14 years, left home, and have been totally on my own since then, in the sense, financially, I was throughout on scholarships, so never really went back home to ask for money for support. And from then on, it was like taking one competition and getting the next scholarship and getting the next admission. Family really did not have much role to play in that. And one thing came after another. I don't think there was much planning happening, but things just presented themselves. Very often I ended up doing what I did not want to do. But that's how I am a strong believer in destiny, that but you have to do your best, but then always life has something else in offer for you. And I never said no to opportunities, took whatever came my way, and no regrets whatsoever at the end of it all. So I finished my BSc, and then I took up the next JRF, it used to be called at that time, that is the Junior Research Fellowship exam from ICR. I won that scholarship, which funded my master's in clothing and textiles from the same university. And the day I finished my master's, I got a TA-ship, teaching assistantship, in the same college. And I became a lecturer when I was 21 years old. Then I thought I have to go in for my PhD. So when I had finished my master's and then had worked for some time, then there was this very surprising invitation that I got from IIT Delhi Textile Department, because I had come here for some of my research work, testing, etc. Met the professors here. The professors really liked my work. And even though I came from a non-engineering background, and normally people with my background did not get admitted to PhD in IIT at that point of time, he was very encouraging. And he said, why don't you apply for PhD? I said, do you think I can? He said, yes, if you have cleared a huge NET, any national level test. So UGC NET had been introduced that same year for the first time, actually. And in my first attempt, I got it. And that's what became my passport for admission to IIT Delhi, because IIT Delhi was accepting people, not just with GATE, etc., but also with JRF, UGC NET, I'm sorry. And I had cleared it. And then I applied for PhD at IIT. I was the first person of my background ever to apply. And I'm told that my case went up to the Senate and the board for special approval, because nobody had ever applied that. I got through. And then I started my PhD. Very exciting kind of, time. Being at IIT was huge for a small time girl like me. And I was this wide-eyed, person in this big city. Um, but it was an amazing experience doing PhD from here. Well, happened to meet my husband also here in the same lab. So that became another milestone, and had a great supervisor who actually exposed us, not just to research methodologies and things, but also, made I feel, in many ways made an all-rounder out of us, in the sense we did a lot of conferences, published a lot of books and technical books on our own subject, conducted a whole lot of workshops. So I actually converted to part-time PhD after 1 year of joining PhD. So I was doing my PhD, plus I was working on a research project sponsored by the Ministry of Textiles, Government of India. So both the things were happening together, and I worked on the topic of natural dyes at that point of time. In fact, this field of natural dyes, when we started looking at it, was all the literature that you found, that you could find on this thing, was by craftspeople and artisans. And there was almost no scientific literature on this topic worldwide. So they were all craftspeople who were growing some plants in their backyard, harvest the plant, take out some dye some hand spun wool or things like that they had in their neighborhood, and then knit something, or that kind of literature was there. So there was no technical literature. So it was very exciting, because in the late 80s is the time when the eco-friendly movement first began, and people started, and dyeing industry was under a lot of pressure for being extremely polluting in nature. So that's what was our incentive for, looking at natural dyes as a possible alternative to synthetic dyes, is an eco-friendly alternative. It was very interesting, and I will share it with you, is that we did not know what we were getting into. Because when we first started publishing these papers, there were these huge multinationals, who were into manufacture of synthetic dyes. And suddenly these lobbies started, putting in literature against natural dyes for the first time. I mean, they kind of felt threatened, because what they published all along is, it's something like Ayurveda, not getting its due because there is no scientific basis. So when for the first time we started publishing, so I was able to publish my papers in the topmost journals in our field. They got accepted, and they got very good reviews. And so then we looked at both the theoretical aspects of dyeing with natural dyes, and that was my PhD thesis work, and the practical methods of application of dyes, wherein, we went around the country and trained carpet weavers in dyeing with natural dyes, because we thought there's a lot of value in, dyeing carpet wool with natural dyes, because kids play on it, or people sit on it, or barefoot, etc. So they have medicinal values as well. So we went to Srinagar, we went to Bhadoi, Jaipur, Sikkim. We conducted several workshops where we kind of transmitted the knowledge that we had gained. So there was this theoretical aspect, and there was the practical aspect. We conducted several workshops, like I said, and brought out proceedings also. So 4 or 5 books also we published. So that was as far as my PhD was concerned. After that, before I finished or submitted my PhD, actually I got a job offer in a place called TIT Bhiwani. It's close by, Technological Institute of Textile and Sciences, it was called. I was given the position of head of garment technology there. And so I set up that department there. And in the same year, I had my daughter actually. So yeah, a lot of things, PhD going on, new job going on, kid going on, a very tough phase. So I was very guilty because I was in the final stages of my PhD when my daughter was born. And so I had resolved, I could not give her, typical guilty mother syndrome. Um, I wish I knew better at that time. now, now that my daughters are 28 and 25, I know better. Anyhow, didn't know that then. And so I submitted my PhD thesis the day my daughter turned 1. That was my birthday gift to her, ki ho gaya ab, whatever it is. And kind of took a break in the sense that I did not take up a full-time job after that. So I did part-time things here and there. And for 2 years, I was a visiting scientist at lab in Lucknow. Then I was a research advisor to a company in Ghaziabad. So I was doing these little things and trying to kind of, settle down. In the meantime, we had moved back to Delhi. And I thought now it's time for me to, look up a job, regular job. That's when this IIT Delhi opportunity came up against all odds, because I was a very fresh candidate. IIT Delhi does not accept fresh candidates. But I applied and then I got through. And just as soon as I joined IIT, it is coincidental that when I had taken up my first job, I was pregnant with my daughter. And when I took up the second job, I was pregnant with my second daughter. And so I was 5 months pregnant when I joined IIT. And again, a new place, new house, 2 babies. It was very difficult. I had a nervous breakdown 1 year later. I couldn't handle it. It was very tough. Yeah. So that's about the career. And after that, of course, the usual that research and academic career happens. You're busy with family and career and publishing papers and meeting all those, checking the boxes, so to say. And so it's very interesting when I think I turned about 40 or 45. For the first time, I stopped and said, all your life coming from a, middle class family, कि तुम्हें अच्छा पढ़ना है, you have to do well in studies, then you have to get married, then you have to have a job, then you have to have kids. When I was 45 and all this was done, I said, इसके आगे तो किसी ने बताया नहीं क्या करना है. What next? So that was an interesting phase, I think, very interesting. And I think kind of a turning point also, when I realized that, well, okay, let's see what all we can do. That's when I decided, working in areas that I was passionate about, my regular research, plus opened up areas in eco-friendly processing of textiles. Then I went, opened a new area in what we call as garment sizing, which is a very fascinating area. I still work in it. We went into the area of developing assistive products for medical, rehabilitation and therapeutic applications. Very interesting design, small design projects that students were doing, taking up, because there's a huge untapped field, where you need therapeutic devices. And in India, we have no nobody working on them, especially for the Indian population, Indian requirements. And the field is tremendous. So several products we have developed. One of our products is called Mama Pod, which has actually got a couple of awards as well by Department of Biotechnology. And this is an assistive device for mothers who have low birth weight babies. The survival rate of these birth weight babies is very low. And so they need to be kept in, as per WHO guidelines, they have to be kept in skin to skin contact with the mother, between the mother's breasts. And that has been shown to, help maintain their body temperature and reduce the mortality by almost 51%, which is very significant. So we were approached by the neonatal ICU unit of AIIMS, and they said, can you develop something for us which is suitable for Indian mothers? So we developed this product, which we call as Mama Pod. We went on to patent it, and then we have transferred the technology also to a Ghaziabad-based company who are now commercially manufacturing and supplying it to various hospitals in North India. So that has been a very satisfying experience. Then we have done some products for autistic kids, or kids with cerebral palsy. So special kind of weighted compression garments we have worked on, which have also been also undergone clinical trials by AIIMS doctors, and they are also there. And lastly, in the last few years, I have got actively involved with administrative activities at IIT Delhi at the institute level. And I have had the good fortune of actually holding positions there. No woman has ever been appointed in the 60-year history of IIT Delhi. So this has been a male dominated, and because there were very few female faculty. So I got the position of president of Board of Recreational and Creative Activities, which is BRCA, which is the Creative Activity Club of students. So they said, how can a woman handle boys? So anyway, I had a great time. 2012 to 2015, I was in the chair and kind of changed how things worked. After that, I was offered the position of Associate Dean of Infrastructure. Again, no woman had ever been in infra before. And the then director actually gave me the responsibility of improving the aesthetics of the campus in general. Creating interactive spaces for students, none existed at that point of time, and generally, uplifting and facelifting of the campus. So I had a great 3-year tenure, renovating labs and building a lot of spaces. And so if you come into our campus, people will tell you, if you see color anywhere, then Deepti must have done it, kind of thing. Got artwork, got some sculptures done through students professionally, just brought in a whole culture of sensitizing the people to art and aesthetics. Again, very challenging. And then now last for 1.5 years, I have been Associate Dean of Student Affairs, Hostel Management. So there are 13 hostels on campus, and we have about 6,000 students, which I now manage as the president of Board of Hostel Management. I think there needs to be greater awareness about what I was diagnosed with, postpartum depression, at that point of time. And so, for example, in case of when it happened for the first time, I was very alone So I think what I went through a lot of, and I can see my own PhD students and others would probably go through the same cycle, in the sense that a lot of us who pursue professions seriously know nothing about personal life, married life, and especially about being a parent or a mother. I think we need to have more robust systems put in place in general. I don't know whether the gynaes now advise people beforehand that you need a good support system, your friends, you need to socialize, your family, everybody needs to be sensitized to that, that it's going to happen. And that I know when I held my daughter for the first time, I had never ever seen an infant before. I had never seen an infant before. I had never held an infant before. So it was like, what is this? So my husband and I, we bought books and we brought up our kids by the book, literally, so to say. There was no support system. I don't know whether parents really are the right people, because a lot of us don't like to listen to our parents. So some peer group, some, I think the doctors, somewhere this has to be brought about, that this is going to be a tough phase. And women in particular do need a lot of support, from all fronts. And also women need to be told that, okay, it's fine, it's all very natural. We take things too seriously, that thing about being perfectionists and trying to do everything. Because I know, I'll tell you what made it worse now that you have mentioned it. A lot of people said, अरे तुम तो टॉपर हो, तुम तो आईआईटी से पीएचडी हो, तुम्हें बच्चे पालने नहीं आते, you know so no, नहीं आते. you know Nobody taught me that in my PhD or ever before, what it means. So maybe I don't know how we can do something about it, but yes, I think one should consciously prepare for motherhood and be prepared for these phases and this depression and whatever needs to be done by way of counseling or medication, etc. We must all be made aware, I think, more aware of these things and have support systems in place. I don't think they are there. When I look around, for example, for my own students, and IIT Delhi has n number of PhD students. We don't have these, but in our IGES and in our Gati project that is being run at IIT, these are some of the things we are already trying to highlight and do, so that as a matter of practice, we tell our female students to prepare for these things, because a lot of them actually just or during the PhD to become mothers. But henny, the system doesn't exist. I think it took a lot of time, but I think otherwise it was internally, well, I think my husband's support and then my own spirit, I think. It's difficult to keep me down for long. So eventually I had to find myself. But it took a time. It took a lot of time. Yeah, and there were people, yes, there were people in the department I could talk to, and yeah. So very slow, but not conscious. It was not a conscious process, but eventually, yes, it happened. I actually think it was our initial value system. Education was a huge value. Education, hard work, sincerity, I think they were drilled into us by our parents. As far as idols are concerned, I think my PhD supervisor was a big influence. We tried to emulate him, and because he was exceptional in his professional work as well as administrative work, so I think that's I took it from him that it is possible to have a good balance of administrative work as well as academic work. So he was a great influencer in that sense. Otherwise, some friends I have had with whom one could discuss, but I can't tell much. Yeah, so a major turning point for my life was when, like I said, I came to IIT Delhi first for doing some experiments. And I kind of just was totally enamored by the place and thought this is where I would like to come at some point of time, not knowing how and not knowing that I'll end up, spending my life here. And then again, when I applied for PhD and got accepted for PhD, a huge thing, like I said, because I had not expected that, and nobody with my background had ever been accepted here. So that kind of shaped my career in a big way, I think. Those are the major turning points. And then, of course, when I was selected as a faculty member also, these were something which, well, changed everything. So success, I think, to me means not really having to prove anything to anybody any further. You can choose, and again, that is something that IIT Delhi allows you, and not many places, sometimes I say in the world, give you the freedom to decide what you want to do in terms of your research area, in terms of your teaching area, in terms of where all you want to channelize your energies. I don't think anybody else, and I think that's what is special about places like IIT Delhi. So that to me, I think, is success. And failure, I don't think anything is a failure. Failure is beautiful in the sense that it teaches you what not to do, how to set it right. I might have faced challenges, but frankly, for example, like my daughters tell me, you never noticed them, she says. So I frankly never felt that there was discrimination against me because I was a woman. Because of my academic background, that is, I come from a non-engineering background, I have always been discriminated against in my own department, which has been very, very difficult to handle, but not so much about my sex, I think. I have not noticed it. But now being in administration for many years, and having been sensitized to these gender issues, I can now say that in all decision-making, activities, all of us women who are in senior administration now at IIT are able to bring about that sensitization at a larger scale. Little things as in language, as in, so my director will start to say something and then say, okay, no, maybe I don't need to say that. And we say, yes, you got it right, kind of thing. So ye nahi hota tha pehle. That sensitivity to, gender issues was not there earlier. And now I'm able to stand up in a meeting and actually point it out and say, no, I don't want to say manpower, kind of thing. And we have changed the complete, for example, I look after hostel management. I told you, we had different rules for women's hostels and men's hostels. So there was a, heading saying girls hostels, boys hostel. We have removed that. There is no differentiation. Hostels are hostels, whether they are for men or women. Another thing that we are going to do for the first time now is have, abhi hamare sare hostels are divided into men's hostels and women's hostels, so on two different sides of the campus. For the first time, we are going to have a mixed hostel, common hostel. And we also want to project it as, neutral, gender neutral hostel kind of thing. because we do recognize that there are members of LGBTQ, etc., and they may not want to identify or come out with their identity. So we want to give them the opportunity of choosing this hostel without having to, declare anything. So these are some of the new things that we have done. Then we had something like, each hostel was headed by what was called as a house master. So we have changed that terminology now to head of the house. So a lot of things in our documentation, IIT ka jo main documentation hai, with respect to hostels, because that's the domain I work in. We are trying to bring out these little things, but they are historic, have been there historically for 60 years. So we are trying to change them. Yeah. So actually, it's very difficult to, it's like, swimming against the tide. Although we started working in natural dyes and I did a lot of work and established them as a viable alternative. But at the same time, we realized that a lot of these things about ecology in particular, is hype. And when you go and look deeper, and what we say is that if you really want to say which thing is eco-friendly and what is not, you need to do what is called as a life cycle analysis. But ever so often, there are lobbies interested, protecting their self-interest. And so the facts, the scientific facts really do not come out. It's the hype, because somebody wants to sell something or somebody doesn't want another thing to be sold, including scientific literature, that this is happening. So the social impact of my work, frankly, I do not think I can assess. We only try to work, for example, two of my latest students, one PhD student is working on development of sanitary napkins using, this pearl millet plant ka jo straw hai, which they are burning in the fields, this crop residue. So if we are to prevent crop residue from burning, we feel that we have to find value added applications for the residue so that a farmer gets good cost. So that was the background with which we started looking at this. And now we have found that this pearl millet straw is a beautiful source of cellulose, very high quality cellulose. So that is, for the first time, we have studied this material and extracted cellulose from it, characterized the properties of this cellulose, and we find that it can make a good option for the absorbent layer of sanitary napkins. So scientifically, we have shown, compared it with commercial sanitary napkins, and shown that this material, indigenous material, rather than the expensive pine pulp or sap, they're using super absorbent polymers nowadays, which are non-biodegradable. So if you want to prepare a completely biodegradable sanitary napkin, this material can actually provide, good source of cellulose. Then we are also using the same material to remove dyes from the effluents, textile dyes from effluents. So we are showing that it is possible to have industrial applications of this biological waste materials. So this is like a new area, opening up a new area, which can be commercialized. Each one of these products can be commercialized, produced in large, this thing. But social impact is a very long thing, and it's too big a thing for me to talk about, really. I do mentor I just happen to have a lot of PhD students who are females. and they're all going through the same issues of marriage and in-laws and having to work-life balance and things like that. And well, I make it a point to talk to them, guide them in their career choices, in their family matters as well. Whatever support we can, we give them. But at the institution level also, I feel that uh, I am a member of these organizations which are involved in gender issues. And we are trying to put things in place big time. Uh, so for like gender, at least we are trying to propagate, my staff in the hostels, for example, we have, it's mostly male staff and male students are there, but we have done intensive, gender sensitization exercises for them, workshops for them, so that they are more sensitive, go back to their families and know about these gender issues. And also disability. So disability workshops, for example, I have conducted for all my staff members, so that they are sensitive towards students with special needs. We did get some complaints earlier, but now we have, conducted these workshops for our staff so that they handle the students better. And in general, because each staff member is coming in contact with 350 to 400 students at a time. So whatever, we don't want wrong things to be propagated. So this is what we try to do. Yeah, I think with my administrative experience of past 7-8 years, I think I have learned a lot. Again, from a very, very vulnerable and idealistic person, I think I'm wiser now, more balanced. Uh, I think I'm a good administrator. I'm good with people. I've realized this, that it is possible for me to work with people and make a difference. So sometimes I do feel that, maybe in some organization, heading some organization, although I continue to feel that in a place like IIT, there's plenty to do. And I think in my own way, I'm trying to make a difference in many, many ways, small ways and big ways, which I think, is going to propagate over a period of time. But yes, given a larger administrative role as the head of an organization, I feel that what one learns at IIT, because, IIT has the strength of having systems, and we work in a certain way. And I feel that when we take these systems and put them elsewhere, there's a lot that can be improved. I would like to make a difference, yes, a bigger difference to a larger number of people. I don't know how, but yes, improve the lives of people in whatever way, whichever way, especially in education and skill training. I feel these are some of the very key areas as far as employment generation is concerned or nation building is concerned. So yeah, I do hope to play a role somewhere. So if I had to go back and give a message, I would say that um, it would be that, well, hard work, sincerity, integrity, pay. And if you work hard towards something, you do achieve it, but you don't have to kill yourself over it. That is the key thing. Don't kill yourself over it. It will happen if you work hard enough and believe in yourself. Yeah. Believe in yourself. And if you're hardworking and sincere, then you do achieve what you set out to achieve. On the professional front, really nothing. Nothing. I think I would still live my life the same way. Yeah. Personally, I think I would tell myself to be more kind to myself and to others around me, more accepting of the diversity that exists, and that there are different people with different expectations, with different skill sets, with different aspirations, and they cannot be like you and you cannot be like them, but then that's the whole beauty of it. We have to all move forward together, accept these differences. I sing, I take music classes, and yeah, regularly I do that against all odds. People told me, you're not improving, don't do it, blah blah blah. I said, this is one thing that I do for myself, and I'll continue to do it. Yeah. So when I was younger, or when one is younger, you just input. There is input, and very often you don't kind of see the output. But at my age, I have had the good fortune of seeing so many things, which not just me, the way I did it, and there was input and there's an output, but all around you. And you're able to see that pattern, that if this goes in, then this goes out, or this comes out. And so I feel that if you do good, and if your intentions are good, it always bears fruit, and in many ways tangible fruit, you can see it. And so now that very strong belief is there that nothing goes, there is, what do they say? There is an output. For any input, there is an output. And if the input is good, the output is bound to be good. And it all comes back to you. What goes around comes back to you. So, yeah, everywhere.